What up? Can you hear me?
Yo, what is that?
You're 2 minutes late.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Do you actually have everything set up, or do you still have to like post everything?
I have mostly everything set up. I just need to post one more thing.
Exactly, exactly.
Or
I'm
two.
late, and you're still not ready.
No, I'm pretty much ready. We're live on everywhere already.
Right.
So according to Restream, we're already live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Um, the only thing is I want to post something in our. I was trying to get it posted on our events to go live there automatically, but my restream says that I'm only allowed up to four, so I have to like either pay for more or kind of remove one of our destinations.
I
But
thought it
right,
already. I thought it did that automatically. Thought.
so I have up to four destinations, right? So right now I'm streaming on YouTube. I'm streaming on our targeted Facebook podcast. I'm streaming on Twitch, and I'm streaming on my personal Facebook page, right?
Okay.
What I'd like to do is stream on the Facebook event, but it's not doing it because we are already at the maximum of four destinations according to Restream. So I need to kind of figure out that. But I will
Mhm.
try to. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to post it in the event, and hopefully people can find it.
I don't know
And
if people go on the event, they can already. There's already a button to say watch live video. So
yeah, I kind of like to make it as easy as possible, right? Go on the event, you see my face. Easy peasy.
true, 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 true.
So, how you doing, man?
Good, man.
Yeah. We're gonna talk. Obviously, why Black people vote. I spent a lot of time on this. Why Black people vote.
You gotta do the intro, man. You can't just
Yeah. Oh, we
say what we're
will.
talking
We
about.
will. We will.
We
Oh, we
will.
will. We're
We're
gonna get
live.
there. We're gonna get there.
We're live.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. We'll get there. It's not. I'm looking right now. We don't have any like any watchers right now, so it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. We're good. So I just want to make sure that she gets on everything so when people jump on, they can see it. So let me that. And the second I start doing it, they things are getting a little bit slower because of course it does.
Of course.
I made sure everything was right too. I got the put my Ethernet cable in, make sure I close all my browser tabs.
Get off of Pornhub. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Shut up. Get off of Pornhub my butt. Almost there. Come on. Man, it is going super slow now today of all days. Like right when
I
I'm on the
think
go.
let's go ahead. I mean, whoever's watching on there will they'll catch up eventually.
Well, kind of. Wait. Oh shit. It started streaming live automatically. I think on the event thing. Perfect. Just like how I planned.
Sure. Noob.
Don't start with me. Don't start here, Mr. 2 minutes late, making fun of me for like all the shit
Honestly, I could be 10 minutes late. I think everybody knows this, where you could be 10 minutes late and we're still getting set up. Right. Let's be honest.
Hey, this
All right.
the podcast runs on CBT time. All right. Welcome to the welcome to the targeted podcast. I am Sahi. That is Nicholas. I love how Nicholas' name on the thing says Nicholas's.
just in case I didn't think it was my account, right?
This is Nicholas's.
I don't even know when it did that.
I don't
I'll switch it later.
I'm not even sure how is that the correct how that works for possession. with the S, Nicholas's.
Yeah,
The extra
yeah,
S. I think so. Okay, makes sense.
man.
Legit.
You ain't no English teacher, man. Get out of here.
Not. I'm really not. Okay,
Stick to code.
stick to code. I will do that. Right. And I will stick to this podcast. So, I want to say welcome to everyone for joining us in this podcast. I'm sure people will join eventually. But no, this is actually a doozy. So I spent a lot of time kind of delving back into my research. So I figured this out. Well, I watched the podcast video last year from a guy called The Holy Podcast, right? And he did this whole expose on why Black Christians vote Democrat and why white Christians vote Republican, right? And there's just so much to kind of get into this, right? And I really wanted to kind of share this information and kind of see where it's going, right? So since the current governor has tried to ban critical race theory and has set up a hotline for critical race theory, you're gonna get your
amongst other stupid things.
Yeah, amongst other stupid things, right?
But yeah, sure.
You're gonna get your critical race theory stuff to here right now, since it's not going anywhere else in Virginia. You'll get it right here because it's Black History Month, right? So let's go ahead and get started. Some disclaimers before we get started, though. Number one, this is obviously a very political topic, kind of. It shouldn't be. It's not by design, but rather, I mean, when you say why do Black people vote Democrat, right? That's gonna invoke some sort of political beliefs and whatnot, and people will feel some type of way about this, right? The intent of this is not to put down anyone or is to not to say Democrats are right, Republicans are wrong, but to really give some historical context, right? And to kind of open up some discussion. I have a crap ton of notes here, and I realize I'm not going to get through it all, right? And I don't want to spend an hour talking about this. So
yeah, no, let's get to it, man.
But I do want to kind of get into the details as to, I mean, why that's the case, right? And I think it's really, really important. It's sad that we don't talk about this in schools, right? So, time to get started. Why do Black people tend to vote Democrat? And why do white people tend to vote Republican, right? And it is a very, very interesting thing because obviously Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, right? The man who freed the slaves was a Republican, right? Frederick
Well, that's
Douglass,
usually what they say. It's the party of Lincoln. That's usually how they refer to Republicans.
It's the party of Lincoln, right? That's how they kind of justify themselves. So, but Lincoln obviously was a Republican. Frederick Douglass, right? His story, right, was a slave who escaped to freedom to New York, right? He eventually became the ambassador to Haiti, right? He was a Republican, right? Actually, the first 23 African Americans that was elected to Congress were Republicans, right? The first one being Hiram Rhodes Revels, elected to Congress in 1871, right? Currently in Congress, however, there are only 3 Black Republicans in Congress, including Byron Donalds, right? Burgess Owens, and Tim Scott, right? In terms of Democrats, there are 57 in Congress, right? 56 in representatives, 1 in the senator. So Reverend Warwick of Georgia, the lone Black governor, the lone Black senator, Democratic senator, and Tim Scott, the lone Black senator in Congress, right? So that's kind of how we are. So the question is how the hell we got here, right? Some more interesting numbers to kind of put into perspective here. 91% of black people, African Americans, voted for the Democrat in 2016. And then 92% voted for the Democrat in 2020, right? So obviously there was kind of a huge role reversal into that, and we're gonna kind of get into to that. Why? I'm gonna post the link to all of my resources in the chat. So, because I went through a lot of resources to try to make sure that this is right and whatnot, and don't want you guys to think I'm kind of pulling this out of midair, right? Also, people tend to be contrarian and like.
Are you saying you didn't use Wikipedia?
I didn't use Wikipedia. I did use a lot of videos which have their own references. I used NPR and whatnot as well. So I used a lot of resources. It took a lot of time just to kind of consolidate everything. And I'm going to ask your forgiveness earlier because right now because you'll probably see me just flipping around through pages and whatnot, just trying to stay organized. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I will post the references to all my notes here, like after I'm done here. But I kind of gave you the rundown of, like I said, the first 23 African American Black people in Congress were voted. Were the first 23 Black people or African Americans that were voted in Congress were Republican, right? But by 1901, there was no Republican or no Black person in Congress, right? So we're going to get into the reason as to why that is, right? And to start, right, I'm going to take you back in time, right? Back in time to when a man got elected and half the nation revolted. And I'm not talking about January 6th. I'm not talking about last year. I'm talking almost 200 years ago, right? To 1861. What happened in 1861? That's when Lincoln was elected, right? One of the things that Lincoln ran on was the Dred Scott case. And I want to get a little bit into the Dred Scott case a little bit. Dred Scott case was, he was a slave, right? Obviously, during that time, there were slave states and there were free states, okay? He was a slave in Missouri. His master took him to a free state to do some work, right, as a slave. And then when his master brought him back, his master passed away. He appealed to the Supreme Court that since he lived in a free state and his master is passed away, he is free. Yeah, he is free. The Supreme Court voted against this. Unanimously said, you don't have the rights to do this, right? And Abraham Lincoln ran on this campaign in 1960. I mean, and won in 1861. The Confederacy.
Hold on. When you say ran on this in 1861, are you saying that he ran on the platform that Dred Scott, Scott should not have been able to go to the Supreme Court and say that?
No, he ran the campaign that Dred Scott should be free, right?
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln was an abolitionist, right? He didn't believe in slavery. I don't want to get into the details of how that changed because his mind changed drastically over time from, well, if I could if I could bring the Union without freeing any slaves, I would, right? And then he turns to like, I want to free the slaves. That's a different discussion. That takes a lot of time.
I feel like that's something we might have to get into too, because it wasn't just like,
oh yeah,
he was thinking that all slaves should be free. It was
Oh,
it was a lot of concessions and negotiations.
Yeah, his first priority was the Union, right?
Yeah.
But he did have the realization that there wouldn't be one Union while half the states are free, half the states are slaves, right?
Right.
So either one or all. Like, so it's either spreading slavery to save the Union or getting rid of slavery to save the Union, right? And that's what it was. So when Lincoln was elected and he ran on the platform of like the Dred Scott case, right? The South immediately seceded, right? They were not happy with this, and they thought of it as to protect their way of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their states' rights, and obviously their way of life and states' rights included slavery, right?
Oh, it was their entire economy, right? So I mean, money. I feel like the economics was definitely a big part of it.
So it's so funny. I didn't take too much notes on that per se, but one of the articles that I read and videos that I watched, they talked about one of the arguments that is used is that, well, the South's economy was based off of slavery, right? They were an agrarian economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also the North was also an agrarian economy as well, right? And they actually produced more food than the South, right? I don't have reference to that particularly, but more like agriculture than the South, but they also paid their farmhands, right? Also, there was there were inventions like the cotton gin and whatnot that actually made slave trade irrelevant, right? Like when you have machines that can do it, it's much faster than having a slave, right? The reason for slavery was because of the hierarchy of things, right? They thought the black male or the black person was beneath them, right? And that
I don't know what happened, man, but you got muted.
Oh shit. Can you hear me now?
You're back now. Yeah,
okay.
You're back now.
My mic is very sensitive, so if I touch it a little bit, it like just shuts out. This happens to me with Zoom all the time. It's like, say, hey, I lost you. Like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, Mike. It's so annoying. So, but yeah, there's so many quotes that that states that the South went to war to preserve slavery because they did not feel like African Americans were equal to them, right? That was the main reasonings for going to war, right? Okay, so that's essentially that. Where we are now. So we just started the Civil War. Okay, Lincoln was elected in 1861. South secedes in 1862. A lot of the executions, and I have my notes here. Was it states' rights? Was it the northern aggression? All BS. Mainly, it was to kind of keep the hierarchy of keeping a slave. So yeah, it was pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so during the war, the 13th Amendment gets passed, right? 13th Amendment pretty much states that there should be no slaves, abolish slavery, right? Okay, then the 14th Amendment, so 13th Amendment passed in 1865. 1865, in April 1865, the Civil War ends, finally, okay?
Right.
And in 1868, the 14th Amendment is ratified. This grants citizenship to anyone that was born in the United States, right? So if you're born in the United States, you're granted citizenship.
You're a citizen, yeah.
Right? So the 14th Amendment, so Netflix has this show called The 14th Amendment, and it was, what can I say? It's it's a great show, but the 14th Amendment is used a lot in civil rights cases. They used a lot in cases for women's suffrage, right? It's used a lot in a lot of cases. So it's
I watched that. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's a great documentary. Will Smith is in it, but there's a lot of other kind of high profile people in this documentary. It's actually free on YouTube. You can actually watch it on YouTube. You don't even need Netflix to watch it. So yeah, but that's essentially that. So after the 15th Amendment was ratified, so the 15th Amendment is ratified. The 15th Amendment, ratified in 1870, gave the black man the right to vote. So black males gave the right to vote. And in 1871, the first black congressman was elected to Congress, right? His name is Herm Rhodes Revels, right? 1871. And since then, at that point, 23, like I said earlier, 23 African Americans were elected into Congress. A lot of them in the South, right? As you can imagine, there are some people in the South that didn't like this, like at all. So, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. So one of the things that the Republicans did, right? Well, Republican leadership did. So Lincoln did, Ulysses S. Grant did, was they kept federal troops in the South, right? This is to help protect African Americans' rights to vote, right, and to not be persecuted by the Ku Klux Klan and whatnot. There are a lot of terrorist organizations that cropped up during that time. The most famous one is the KKK, right?
Mhm.
They were the one that terrorized the people. So what happened was in 1876, right? The election was in a deadlock, right? Um, we just finished fighting a war like 15 years ago. Election was in a deadlock, right? Republicans and Democrats would happen, and then there was a compromise, right? Um, with both parties claiming victory, and to prevent a war, the Northern Republicans and some of the Democrats met in secret and made a deal, right? Rutherford Hayes became the president, and all federal troops would be removed from the South from protecting Black rights, right? And this was kind of the beginning of the end and the beginning of the Jim Crow era, right? So as soon as
What year was this? Because I feel like that kind of coincides with the Reconstruction too.
yeah,
Because
so
Reconstruction was actually a pretty prosperous time
so
for
Reconstruction was
Black
a
people in this
prosperous
country.
time, right? There were a lot of Black schools,
Mhm.
Black churches, right? Very industrialized, right? And then it was all just taken away, right? And like I said, my notes are like all over the place, unfortunately. But it does talk about like, um, I do talk about like Reconstruction as well, right? Um, so yeah, Reconstruction unfortunately meant the removal of just federal troops protecting Black rights, right? And it really came at the cost of African Americans in United States.
Mhm.
So yeah, I even have my notes here. The Compromise of 1876 was the betrayal of Black Southerners by Northern Republicans, right?
For sure.
And that's when the KKK started clamping down, terrorizing, lynching, and placing Jim Crow laws, right? And like I said, by 1901, there were no Black people elected into Congress. Keep in mind, the first 23 were Republicans, right? We haven't even
Yep.
gotten to the part where, like, because Black people used to vote Republican
Mhm.
pretty religiously, obviously, help them get free, right? That's kind of been taken away from them for some time, right? So, and my notes here is some Black people felt loyalty to the Republicans, but they also felt betrayed, right? Because of the
Your sound went out again.
I didn't even touch my mic. Can you hear me now?
All right, you're back.
Okay, I think you're kind of joking with me a little bit.
No, I'm really not.
Okay,
I'm not.
this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Okay. All right. But thank you for letting me know.
Mhm.
So where were we? So African Americans was loyal to obviously the Republican Party, right? But after like the Great Depression, right? And during the Great Depression, obviously African Americans suffered more under the Great Depression than everyone else,
Of
right?
course.
The NAACP stated that argued that in 1926 that blacks should be loyal to neither party, right? Republican or Democrat. Okay. So a couple years later, right? FDR came into place, and hold on, I'm just getting my notes here.
The New
Oh yeah,
Deal, right?
yeah, the New Deal happened. Actually, skipped ahead. Oscar Duplessis was elected to Congress in 1929, and there hadn't been a Black man in Congress in 30 years. He was Republican.
1939. Okay.
Yeah, 1939. Keep in mind, there are no Black people in Congress in 1901, 1939, excuse me, 1929 was when, again, Oscar Duplessis, excuse me, Duplessis was elected in the Congress. He was a Republican, right? The Great Depression happened, really hurt just a lot of people. Obviously, hurt Black people way more. And FDR came in with the New Deal, kind of lifting everyone out of the economy. Okay. The Great Depression, Blacks suffered more than twice the unemployment rate than whites, right? And many of the people in the Black community voted for FDR and his New Deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the next Black candidate that won a seat in 1934 was something that Congress had never seen before. His name was Arthur Mitchell, and he was the first Black Democrat to be elected to Congress in 1934. Right. Now, over the next 30 years, Black people voted for both Democrats and Republicans. Right. I always wondered, and over the next 30 years, conservative and liberal there were conservative and liberal, both Democrats and Republicans. Right. Actually, the more liberal Republicans were called Rockefeller Republicans, right?
Rockefeller.
Rockefeller Republicans, right? So they were the more liberal-minded Republicans vote versus, but there were conservative Republicans as well. Obviously, there were more liberal Democrats and more conservative Democrats. So it kind of went back and forth a couple of ways there. There were various civil rights measures proposed by both Democrats and Republicans. But there was a very powerful section of like the Congress Judiciary Committee that was full of both Democrats and Republicans, but were very conservative, and they blocked a lot of civil rights legislation, right? Yeah, I talk about the Rockefeller Republicans right here. Progressive Republicans was Rockefeller Republicans. There was a conservative government that wanted. So this is also where you started seeing a lot of the rhetoric that we use today, right? So Republicans talk a lot about small government, right, and less intervention, right? States' rights.
Less oversight. Yeah.
Less oversight, right? And Democrats with the New Deal was actually a little bit different from that, right? So that kind of went sideways. So interesting part here, from 1953 to 1965, there were more than 100 civil rights legislations considered in Congress. But the Senate committee, right, Judiciary Committee, which is mainly conservatives, right, both Democratic and Republican conservatives, right, killed most of that legislation. Right. Yeah. Between 1953 and 1965. One thing that's always fascinated me a little bit too was that while going in school, I never understood why through history class we stop at World War II, right? We usually don't cover history outside of World War II. And the reason of that is because the civil rights era was right afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's.
Well, I mean,
that's
you cover it. I mean, but I think they
overlap.
It's like when we get to the civil rights era, you just learn about the main players that everybody knows about. You don't really hear the stories or the genesis of it, stuff like that. You don't really.
Yeah. No, you don't get into details. And I actually have stats on the reasons why that's the case too, right? One of my notes as to why we don't talk about the civil rights era. So yeah, as years went on, a lot of civil rights legislation was proposed by Northern Democrats, and not by Southern Republicans, right? So as years went on, it started switching sides a little bit, right? Northern Democrats were proposing civil rights legislation. Southern Republicans were kind of against it. There is a man named Storm Thurmond, right? So
weird name.
Yeah,
I'll say a weird name.
Yeah, it is a weird name, but he kind of purposely he really encapsulates what happened because he was a Democrat, and over the years he switched over to the Republican side. And one of the things that that had him switch over was the fact that desegregation, where how federal government was forcing desegregation.
Okay. Man, lost sound again, buddy.
My mic.
Say something.
Low system resources may affect the audio quality. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you ran out of RAM.
Did I speed up faster?
No, I mean, when I heard no system resources, I was like, okay, you must not have enough memory for the
I have 32
software.
GB RAM, so I don't know. It might be time to buy me to get a new laptop. To be honest with you, I mean, I've liked this
That's what it
laptop
sounds
for a
like.
while. This should be a powerful laptop, but like I might just shell out some more money to get like a more powerful laptop, especially if we're going to be doing this podcast stuff and get even more into it. Okay, so I think where was I? Strom Thurmond.
Strom Thurmond.
Right, yeah. He ran for president in 1948. He failed. He served in the Senate. He served in the Senate from 1954 to 2003, and he died in office at the age of 100.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
This is exactly why I say that there needs to be a cap on how long you can be in Congress, man.
Yeah,
the same people with like who come and have these terrible policies back in the day.
Yeah.
Trying to keep people down, still there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. He died in office. So he was a Southern governor, Democrat, and governor of South Carolina, right? So when Harry S. Truman, he integrated the Army, right? So Harry S. Truman he signed a bill, an executive order called 9981, and that was used to integrate the Army. Dwight D. Eisenhower, Republican, enforced that. So obviously Dwight D. Eisenhower was a general during World War II. He actually went through and desegregated the Army, right? So when Truman integrated the Army in 1948 and proposed aggressive legislation, some immigrants like Thurman had enough and formed the Dixiecrats, right? So the Dixiecrats were Southern Democrats, right, who were opposed of integration and were really strong into segregation, right?
They say after all that now, up until this point, we fought in every war, you know what I mean, that this country's been involved in, and yet and still.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind the reason why the South is because they felt that Black people were beneath us, right? And I think that's the reason why isn't they're inferior. And the reason why, I mean, we make fun of Mitch McConnell a couple of days ago talking about like the Black vote is the same as the American vote, right? And
excuse me,
you remember that, right?
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like maybe it was a mistake, maybe it wasn't, but there's historical evidence here pointing the fact that Southern whites think less of Black people, right? That's just the evidence, right? So so Thurman, like, he created the Dixiecrats, right? And he called it the States Rights Democratic Party. This is where you started hearing that term, states' rights.
Oh, Lord.
States Rights Democratic Party. Ran for president, and he lost really, really badly to Harry S. Truman.
Good.
By the way, right? He lost badly. Here is a quote by Thurman when Harry S. Truman decided to integrate the Army. He said, "There is not enough troops in the Army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negro race into our theaters, into our swimming pools, into our homes, and into our churches." That was a quote. That's an actual quote. From.
And this is a man who was in office until 2003.
Yes, to 2003, died in office, right? He spent 20 years trying to fight racial segregation, right? So in 1960, JFK he won the White House and was initially reluctant to take a very strong support on integration and civil rights legislation, right? Um, After attempts to integrate like universities in the South, right? Um, this ended, which they all ended in violence, right? But actually, we all saw this, right? After so many like just violent attempts and black people just being obviously discriminated against, he spoke up and promised major civil rights bill, and he called civil rights a moral issue. Right? JFK said this. He was shot and killed 5 months later.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lyndon B Johnson, right? He vowed to finish the to fight for civil rights in honor of JFK. Um, Johnson was able to pass legislation for civil rights and end segregation in America, right? Lyndon B. Johnson was a Southern Democrat. This happened in 1964, or like 1964, 1965, I believe, right? And Strom Thurmond was pissed, not happy with this at all, especially being LBJ being a Southern Democrat, right? So in 1964, Thurmond announced that he was now Republican. He switched sides, right? And other segregation Democrats tend to jump over to the Republican Party as well, right? The South started slowly like switching over, right? I am missing the details here, right? But yeah. Now it's time to talk about the Southern strategy, right? This is actually the major. So the reason why all the things that I kind of gave you earlier was to give you context now of the Southern strategy. Okay. So 1964, Barry Goldwater hoped to pick up disenfranchised Southern Democrats opposing the civil rights era or opposing civil rights and has a message of states' rights, right, and limited federal government, right? So Barry Goldwater attempted this. What he said was, uh, well, the same arguments you hear now. In 1964, you're hearing the same arguments now about states' rights, right? This is the thing that's been happening for 50 years, right? States' rights. Um, he won the lead Deep South, but he lost the general election. Okay. 1968, right? Nixon did it again. Tried again with the Southern strategy, appealing to white Christian voters, saying the country was changing too fast. We were saying the country was changing too fast, right? So Nixon figured if he turned the South red, he would win the White House, well, without appealing to urban liberals or black voters, right? And he was essentially right? The election of 1968, there were three major party candidates, right? The two ones to kind of remember: Nixon, who won the election, and also George Wallace. George Wallace was a Republican from Alabama who strongly opposed civil rights. He ran actually as an independent, and he won like the Deep South. He won Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, right? Um, Nixon won the rest of the Confederacy with the exception of Texas, right? So yeah, obviously Nixon was a terrible, just terrible president, right? There is a quote by one of Nixon's aides. I wish I wrote it down. Nixon, like, it's a very damning quote. I don't want to like spend time like searching for it right now, but it's a damning quote on how Nixon used the war on drugs to essentially persecute the civil rights leaders and to persecute hippies against the war, right? So there's a lot of anti-war people against the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Side with civil rights leaders, right? So a lot of people like, so what they did is they kind of perpetuated this war on drugs, and they used it to kind of belittle and shut down the liberal hippies and the civil rights leaders, right? So there's a quote, a very damning quote that I'll read another time later.
I got it. Hold on, I got it.
Read it.
It's a lot to it. The Nixon campaign, and the name of the aide is John Ehrlichman. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah, Ehrlichman, that's correct.
Okay. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies: the anti-war left and Black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war, or Black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and Blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did.
Yes.
Wow.
Super damning, right? Just
wow.
Yeah.
This is from an article on
quote.
CNN. Yeah, this is crazy.
Real quote. That's a real quote. From a former aide of the Nixon administration, right? So obviously Nixon's Southern strategy worked, right? He won most of the Confederacy. He didn't win the Deep South because those guys voted for George Wallace, but he won the rest of Virginia, Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, won all those states. North Carolina, South Carolina. Yeah. Okay. So, and this again, we're still on the Southern strategy, right? So in 1980, right, California Republican Nixon, right? Not Nixon, Ronald Reagan, right, launched his campaign in the Deep South. This is a California Republican, right, launching his campaign in the South, in the Deep South, right? And with pledges to preserve states' rights, there's that bullshit term again, right? And a lot of critics took it as the appeal to Dixiecrats, right? He actually started his campaign in a Mississippi County, best known for the murder of 3 civil rights workers. Okay, and obviously Nixon's Southern strategy was very, 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 very successful, right? And that essentially gets us to kind of where we are today, right? One of the things that that's the part where like the South just started turning more and more red. It varied a little bit, right? For example, Bill Clinton was from Arkansas. That's a Southern state, right? He was obviously right. But that was kind of where it started happening, right? During the Civil Rights era and during the Southern the Southern strategy, where they were just appealing to the silent majority, people who felt disenfranchised or weren't being heard because of civil rights. And I find it amazing that states' rights is the reasoning, because like, what does that actually mean? State right to discriminate, the state rights to belittle African Americans, right? So, I mean, they fought heavily against government intervention, but you have to understand the reason for the government intervention was because Black people didn't have the right to vote, didn't have the right to go to the right school. They went by this whole separate but equal campaign.
They had no protection. Yeah,
there was no protection or anything. And federal intervention was needed to guarantee people's rights, right? So that's kind of a really huge bit of it. The guy who I got most of this content from made a great point by saying it's all about looking back. When you look back, right, do you see a better America or a worse America, right? And when conservative Christians look back, right, you see this in actually presidential campaigns, right? Donald Trump, make America great again, right? When they look back, they see a better time, right? Making America great again, right? Conservatism, like when things weren't as liberal, right? When African Americans look back, they see a different time. They see lynching,
nightmare,
and a lot of bad shit, right? And you can see that in Barack Obama's campaign, like speech. Yes, we can. His second speech, forward, right? Progressive, moving forward, right? Conservatives either staying still, moving back, right? So I kind
I
of
think it's
brought this.
interesting. Okay, I'll let you finish what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, but like I think it's I brought this not to say that Democrats are right or wrong, right? Because one can make the argument that right Democrats haven't really earned the right to African Americans votes recently, right? Especially with the failure to pass the John Lewis Civil Rights Act,
Yeah.
or the Policing Act reform, right? Two major bills that could have been passed, we didn't get passed. So you can make that argument, right? But the goal for me wasn't to kind of say Democrats are right or Republicans are wrong, but to really give some understanding of how some of the rhetoric that's used 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago is still being used today, right?
Same tactics.
Same
Yeah.
tactics, same tactics. As and it's not to belittle how far we've come, because we've obviously come a much far away. We can't.
Well, yeah. I
Um,
mean, I'm not getting crosses burned in my
yeah,
yard right now, right?
I mean, we've come a far away, but we have so much further to go, and you
Yeah,
only do that by learning from the past. One of
absolutely.
the last thing I want to say too, what frustrates me about about the South, me growing up in the South, is that like when it comes to actual race and talking about a race, we get very like people get very self-preservational. They talk about, well, I treat everybody with respect and X, Y, and Z,
I
and
don't
like
see color. I have a
I
black
don't see
friend.
color. It's very self-preservational, right? Very sketches. They get very defensive, right? And what's frustrating about it is that the South is actually way more diverse than the North, right? Way more diverse. But they choose to kind of buy into the segregation idea, right? To say to be
Well,
self-preservational, and they choose to be self-preservational. They choose not to um, kind of embrace equality, right? There's so many Southern heroes, so many good Southern heroes, and they choose to keep Confederate statues, right? Robert E. Lee, right? Nathan
well, we
Bedford
did a
Forrest.
piece on that, right? We were.
Yeah,
I forgot exactly what we were saying, but there was a
yeah.
reason why those statues were erected. It was like a certain period. It might have been the civil rights during
It
the
was the
civil
civil
rights
rights
movement.
period. So it was during the civil
Yeah,
rights
where they
period.
were
Those statues were erected.
basically trying to glorify that to kind of keep pace. But I want to
Exactly.
go back to one thing you said about states' rights, because what I find interesting is that, in school, when you learn about
Yeah.
the two parties and what's meant by states' rights, it's not taught through the lens of like slavery or what was really
Yeah.
unnecessarily going on at the time. It's taught more about like, Republicans are more for, less government oversight,
Mm-hmm.
governing yourself, businesses being able to, do things without, they're more pro business is a
Yeah.
lot. I do remember hearing stuff like that. You know what I mean? And they don't put that type of context on it, right?
Of course.
And unfortunately, today, if I was to say to a school, hey, like you need to add some of this other context in there so people get like the whole picture, they're going to say, well, you're teaching critical race theory, right? But that, again, and I keep harping on it, that's not what critical race theory is. This is just, you have to give some additional context to it. It's not just because, the businesses want to be able to run themselves. They didn't want all the government oversight. It's because, you know, people needed protection. And there was a
Yeah.
certain group of people out there who wanted to be able to write laws without any oversight so they could keep a certain group of people down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. No, that was 1,000% right. The quote that you read about from John Ehrlichman nails it, right?
dude, it's scary, man.
Yeah, he's literally said it. It can't be illegal to say we're against black people or to be this, but we can vilify them, right? We can build that narrative,
And
right?
that's exactly what happened. And that
Yeah,
went through from Nixon to Bush. You hear the war on drugs,
yeah,
Dare, they
oh yeah,
punish crack more than cocaine.
yeah,
And anything that happens in poor communities is way worse than
yeah,
if it's in a a wealthy community or whatever.
yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. I do want to get like maybe in another episode because I've been talking about this for a little while. I'm gonna wrap this up so we can talk about something else. But I do want to talk a little bit because I do want to get in a little bit with the Joe Rogan in that situation.
Let's go ahead and dive into that.
Yeah, but I'll finish up really quickly. One of the notes that I found, right? So, report done by NPR, right? In the article, why schools fail to teach slavery, the hard history, right? Half of students, 50% of the students blame taxes on imported goods for the war, for the reason for the Civil War, right? Half the students like thought that, right? Um, the the report goes on to say NPR, some white teachers admitted that they were ashamed to teach about the injustices faced by Black people in America during the Civil War and the Civil Rights, right? Which is why it's not really taught in school. Others say they didn't want to dive too deeply into the trauma of slavery because they didn't want to horrify their students, right? So it's just, and this kind of goes into a little bit of what DeSantis was trying to pass as you can't say anything that like scares like white people, right?
No, it's I think it's like the gay bill or something. They were referring, some people referring to it as, it was like, you can't teach something about sexual orientation or something like that, and it was like, but you can't teach it, you can't talk about it,
But there's also a racial bill that said that you can't get you can't like make white people feel bad or something, like protecting white people from their feelings. Just some fucked up shit that I don't fully remember. But yeah.
But it's not meant to make you feel bad. Like, I don't understand that either. Like, why would you, like, you shouldn't feel bad. You should empathize with why Black, brown, yellow people feel the way they do, right? Yeah. Why would I look at why is it that when I look at something, I immediately think I have to question whether or not it's racially based, right? I have to think about that all the time as a Black person. White person doesn't have to think about that. And yet when I say it, then I'm being racist. But if you were teaching this stuff in school, then you'd have people, I think they would open their minds up more and you'd be more empathetic. It's not to make you feel guilty. You're supposed to understand why I feel and see and perceive things the way I do. I don't care about what your great-great-grandpappy did, right? That's done and gone.
I care about his reparations. I think you should learn what your great-grandpappy did. It's like the past doesn't have to define you, right? Right? Yeah. The past doesn't have to define you, but you should be able to learn from it and build a better future for everyone, right? Yeah. A more collaborative, a more integrated future, right? For everyone, right? And it's just super frustrating to kind of see. I think you hit it like right on the head, and says that you're not supposed. It's not intended to make you feel bad. I didn't like give you do all this research with the intent of making people feel bad. I wanted to. I just wanted. It's important to understand. You don't solve problems by not talking about them.
Exactly.
You don't.
Gotta have some dialogue, man.
I actually talk a little bit about work here. I was actually telling the teams like you have to be vocal, especially while working from home, right? If you can't talk, if you're not talking, I can't help you, right?
Yep.
If you can't talk, I can't help you, right? I actually had this problem with like a contractor recently where he was just silent. I was like, dude, you have to talk, right? Don't freaking come up with the.
Cut out again, man.
My mic dead again.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Everything you said about your coworker, I missed. All I heard was dude, and then.
You did a really good job at that, by the way. All right, let's move off this topic. Let's talk about Joe Rogan.
That was a good one, man. Good breakdown. I appreciated that. I felt like I learned something for sure.
Thank you very much. I hope more people get to watch it. There's a lot. I kind of went longer than I wanted to go, but you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's an important topic.
for
So
sure, man.
yeah, let's talk Joe Rogan.
It's on your boy Joe Rogan, like the most
Your
famous
boy-
podcaster.
the super famous podcaster. So Joe Rogan, obviously he's been getting shit for spreading COVID misinformation,
Misinformation about
right?
COVID. That's one.
Yeah. And artists are starting to move off their platform, off the Spotify's platform. They're like, take my shit off of fucking Spotify in protest to Joe Rogan. I think Neil Young was one of the more popular ones.
Yeah.
India Ari recently removed her her catalog
Yeah.
from Spotify, and she posted a video on her Instagram with Joe Rogan saying the N-word a few times. And what I the funny thing about this, well, I wish BK was here because this would be a perfect thing for our N-word conversation we've been trying to have. But BK, if you're watching,
this is not the last time we're going to bring this up. Yes, this will be used during that episode.
I will say this though, this isn't new. Like, I've known that he's done this, and the fact of the matter is, I mean, I kind of want you to kind of say your piece on this because I can go on and for hours on this per se, but like Joe Rogan's finally been taken to task a little bit here, right?
Yeah.
And Spotify isn't, because he tends to say what he wants and people like him because he gets away with what he says, right? He's more on the right side of he's conservative, he's right-leaning, he's invited a lot of right-wing, he's invited left-wing people on his show too, but he invites a lot of right-wing people on the show, a lot of them spread conspiracy theories. He's also known for taking ivermectin, right? A deworming tool used for horses to cure.
Don't get me started on that stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, please say your piece. Say your piece.
So, first, like when I initially heard it, I was like, you know what I mean? Just like deep side, because you kind of know what his podcast is about a little bit. There have definitely been some entertaining episodes. I mean, I've listened to snippets of it here and there. But this is the thing. He came out with an apology video, right?
Okay.
And he was basically saying that someone, whoever it was, took a bunch of snippets of him just saying the N-word, but they're all out of context. And he was saying that
he called it a political hit job.
He was saying that like the conversations that he was having, it was like they were talking about the word itself. Like they were just talking about it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, if you decide to have a conversation with someone and there's something you want to talk about, you say, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. We're using this type of language or whatever. And then you proceed to talk about it. To me, and again, I don't watch enough of his show to know when he was using the word and why, right? Because for me, I don't think that word should be used, especially by white people, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to not use it. I try to not use it myself, right?
Really? Okay.
I do. Because this is all stuff for the next episode. There's a quote. I was watching this movie, and the guy said something about what kind of language you use, and that really hit me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to improve on that. But so for me, I put it like this. I'm kind of rambling, but it's like if let's say he had some Black guests on, and he was talking about it, and they are talking about it. And maybe he's talking about a song. He's like, can I see the lyrics to the song? Is it okay if I say it?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, blah, 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 N-word, blah, 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 right? Yeah. Why do you feel the need to use that? If he asks a question like that, or tell me about that lyric.
Yeah.
In that case, I can't really be mad because you're talking about art and you ask the person, like, do you mind if I repeat this?
Yeah.
Can't be mad about it, right? But the way that the video came out is just him saying it like 1,000 times. That looks questionable because, why would you, why, how many times do you talk about it, right? How many times you need to say it? You shouldn't be using the word.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in the middle on it. Like, I want to, I know we're in like cancel culture right now or whatever. So on one side of me, it's like, yo, you're out of there. But on the other side, it's like somebody could take this podcast and put together all sorts of things, right?
A supercut of us saying at the wrong time. Yeah.
And yeah, so and put something down like, oh, you're a terrible person. So I mean,
yeah,
I kind of give
I kind of joke
break
about
a
this.
little bit on that.
I joke about this a little bit too, Nicholas. It's like 10 years from now we'll probably get canceled. Because someone's gonna find something that no one likes, and it's just gonna be like, this is the end.
Somebody's gonna go back to like episode 3.
Yeah.
And find like some issues like, oh, white people are he messed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I definitely hear you. Here's my 2 cents. I've always known about him dropping the N-word in like his episodes. So when he first came out with like his first apology about like how when Neil Young and artists started like leaving Spotify platform, he says, hey, you know what? I'll do better, right? And then a lot of people like came up to his defense, right?
The Rock.
The Rock says, yeah, I mean, that was very articulate, brother. Now keep in mind, The Rock has just signed like a huge deal with the UFC, by the way. So it makes you see what's happening, what's going on there. Follow the money a little bit there. So The Rock kind of comes out and defends him a little bit. It's like, yeah, it was very articulate. Can't wait to come on the podcast. Then this shit comes out, right? But this is old. This is not new. This is old, right?
So, but I feel like so.
But let me finish.
Hold on. When The Rock said that, right after that first apology video, that's when he kind of explained like, hey, it was out of context. We were talking about certain things that involved it. I mean,
The Rock, he accepted the apology on the misinformation. Then he took it back when the N-word video came out from NDRE. That's when he took his apology back and said, oh, I didn't know he was like this, X, Y, and Z, and now I see what kind of is, right? So he turned it around, right, when that came out. I'm a little bit with you in the sense that he said it at some point. At what point do you continue to hold it over him, right?
Yeah.
And I think the context of that is like, who do you like fight for? Like, I will hold it over somebody if they continue to like invite guests that are against like my cause, right? That invites right-wing propaganda, right? That essentially belittles Black people, right?
Right. Like, were you using it in a way that was belittling people, like as it was being used, back in the 1800s, 1700s, what have you? Like,
well, I mean,
that's the question.
I'm saying it like this, right? The one problem I find with cancel culture a little bit is that will it allow people to grow, right? Like
Kevin Hart had to get his chance too.
Yeah, I mean, so for example, I mean, growing up in the South, I used to say, "Oh, that's gay. That's this. That's that." Right? That's gay. That's just something that I said because that was the surrounding, and it took me a while to learn not to say that anymore. Right? How offensive that is. That's someone's life right there. Right?
Yeah. Now I'm going to cut that up and release it as a reel of you saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Also, we're gonna cut that up and release it as a reel, and I get canceled. No, but. Allow people to grow, right, is an important piece. Now, let's say, for example, I don't say that's gay anymore, but I'm still belittling people who are in the LGBT community, right?
Yeah.
Then that's like, then I feel like you're totally justified bringing that shit back up, right?
Yeah.
Then, well, your ass didn't even grow much because you used to say this shit 10 years ago. You may not say it now, but you're not doing anything much different now, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the context, like with him. Look, what's interesting about like his apology was a couple of right wingers, Donald Trump, being one of them, and I think it was DeSantis, or I think it was that tool bag.
Bruce.
Teddy Cruz. Yeah, I said tool bag like Cruz.
That's exactly.
Who's that effing Republican tool guy? Ted Cruz. Okay, that's him. Yeah. Yeah. No. They both they were defending him. Like, well, he shouldn't have apologized for saying like those words, right? He shouldn't have apologized. And you know that he's catering to what they're doing is they're catering to this like this base of what we're talking about earlier,
Dude.
right?
So let's compare that to something, okay?
Mhm.
Whoopi Goldberg
Yeah.
makes a comment on The View. Immediately has to well, first she's suspended immediately, okay? Joe Rogan has not been suspended.
Nope.
Then they're calling for her job, right? She's apologized that hasn't meant shit, right?
Yeah.
So, why is it that, again, like you talk about the Black community, it's like, you talk about like some of these other communities, Jewish community, gay community.
Yeah.
I mean, your ass is done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, even Nick Cannon said one thing about the Jewish, I forget what he said or whatever, but as soon as it involved the Jewish community, boom, you're anti-Semitic, get him out of there. Say something, saying the N-word, a derogatory term, and we know your platform, right? We know you have a more conservative platform. We know more than likely how you feel about Black people and minorities. So I mean, you using the N-word, we probably know why you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, here's Joe Rogan's appeal. I mean, I think what happens is that, well, number one, he should have apologized. I'm happy that he apologized, right? Whether we forgive him in the future depends on what happens in the future, right? But he does deserve that opportunity for catharsis. And we'll have to see on that. I think what I find fascinating, especially by Ted Cruz and the Donald Trumps, was that how you were kind of criticizing on him apologizing, is that you guys see it as weak, right? And apology is weak. And it's like, I see you as weak for not wanting to apologize, for not being man enough to apologize, right? You're so busy acting like you're strong or acting like you're tough. If you're tough, you don't have to act, right? Right. So that's just my 2 cents on that. I also want to say one last thing. Like, Joe Rogan's appeal is that he kind of gets away with saying whatever he wants, right? And he's now so popular and makes so much money that he can't really do that anymore, right?
Dude,
so
Spotify came out and was like, yeah, I know he messed up, but we're gonna keep him on.
Yeah, I mean, he's that popular, and he's that popular. He's really part of their strategy in this like streaming wars, right? With so many others, like you have so many other podcasts and music streaming services. Like Joe Rogan is a huge
number one.
Yeah, like a huge place in it. Like Joe Rogan said that he would vote for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders like jumped on the show immediately.
Yeah, I mean,
so like he has a huge presence, but I think part of his presence is like, look, let's be honest, he's a white male, right? He gets to kind of say whatever he wants, and I think people live vicariously through him because of that.
Sure.
Right. And I think that's his appeal. So
I mean, that's the appeal of any mainstream podcast. I mean, you have your audience.
Yeah, I mean,
you use your freedom of speech. I mean, you can,
you appeal to your audience, but let's face it, Donald Trump has the same appeal. Like, he says whatever he wants, doesn't really apologize for it, and people kind of look up to that for no stupid reason.
I'll give you that.
Until like he says to people to get the vaccine, and then they boo him, which I think is hilarious. Which is why he stopped telling people to get the vaccine, which is hilarious. But I mean, Donald Trump, kind of same appeal. White guy says what he wants, and people just kind of live vicariously through that, and it's just really unfortunate, and how I see that. So, Yeah, that's my 2 cents on Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it was a lot because when I saw the headline, I was like, here we go. You know what I mean?
yeah. Oh, oh, oh. Speaking of headlines, so another tool, kind of, a guy who I liked. He ran for Democrats, and he got like ousted. So Andrew Yang, right? He came out and says, like, yeah, I don't think he's a racist. He works with black people, which is like the most tone deaf thing you can say.
Bruh.
Because it's so tone deaf, right? Like, yeah, I don't think he's racist. He works with black people, right? It's just extreme.
That's like saying, yeah, that's like every other white person
I
that
don't see
said,
color.
I have black friends. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
have black
mean
friends.
shit.
Punch you in the face.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
No, it's amazing. So, and this guy, yeah, engineering kind of fell off hard. He fell off so hard. But when I saw that headline, I kind of just rolled my eyes like this dude, this guy.
Is he still in politics? Did he get a
He's
position
kind
in
of in politics. He's not with the Democratic Party anymore. So he ran a Democratic ticket, right? Didn't do too well, right? Um, and I think he's kind of starting his own party. I'm not sure exactly where he is. What's interesting was that the Asian community didn't really like NGA either, right? And he was kind of um, accused of kind of being a bro. Like the way he ran his campaign is very bro-y, kind of bro culture there, which I guess I can see. So yeah, that's unfortunate.
Wow.
Yeah. When he said that, I was like, "This douche, what a douche."
Oh my God.
All right. I mean, that's all I
Next.
got for that kind of stuff. I got kind of gave. I don't know if you wanted to have a Black History fact. I kind of gave a lot of Black History earlier, but
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And then like he came with like he's the first black, this and that, and the third. So I was like, you know what? We just got a whole history lesson this episode. I
yeah.
think I think we're good. I think we're good on that. So what about your guy, Gary Chambers, right?
Oh, damn it! I can't believe I forgot about this. Okay,
Burning
yes.
the Confederate flag to
So
remove promote removing Confederate based issues from America. Love it.
love it. So Gary Chambers from my home state of Louisiana. Uh, so he ran for Congress, right? He ran to replace. So Joe Biden handpicked one of the Louisiana congressmen to as part of his administration, right? And Gary Chambers ran to replace that. He was close to kind of like getting into the runoff, but he eventually lost, and he went with some very conservative, more moderate Democrat, right? Um, the the district that he ran for is a very weird district, because it's part of New Orleans and Baton Rouge, right? Which they're like 60 miles apart. So it's amazing how the gerrymandering works, right? It's like you put the two most densely populated black populations together. That's one district there. But anyway, we'll get into that later. We'll get into another episode. So he lost, right? And now he's running for U.S. Senate. He's probably not going to win U.S. Senate, but he's making a statement, and I'm happy he's doing it, right? So in his
Yeah.
first statement, his first campaign video, he smoked a blunt, and he talked about disappointingly. I didn't show you this video. I didn't send you this video. So in his first campaign video, he smoked a blunt on the campaign. Of course, conservative media kind of targeted him because, of course, that's what they do. And he talks about the kind of disparity of how black people are kind of arrested through drugs, right? This one, he burned the Confederate flag, and kind of how this is a great topic too, because I didn't talk too much about the lost cause narrative, with how the South framed the Civil War and how it was a Northern aggression, and they came out with like movies that said the South was a peaceful time and like black people actually loved being slaves and all that type of bullshit, whatever, right? And yeah. So I thought it was interesting that he burned the Confederate flag, and it's so much better than other conservative politicians that actually you puts guns in their campaign videos and like shoots like pieces of paper and shit because fucking
No,
wow.
I think this is like this. I live for stuff like this, man, because
Yeah.
to me, still celebrating the Confederacy and all of that stuff, having our roads named after these people and all of that, that'd be
Why
the
are they
same
still
as
yeah.
going to Germany and having them be like, yo, this is Adolf Hitler way. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Bro,
it's terrible.
why are there
It's
still
terrible.
American bases named after Confederate generals? Like, if I had known Fort Hood was named after a fucking Confederate general, like, what the fuck?
You have
Really?
no idea. You have no
Really?
idea.
Are we gonna
You know
name
what I mean?
like bases after like Osama bin Laden now or something too? Like what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
what the hell? Like this is like I didn't realize that. So like
yeah. I mean,
these
typically,
bases has taken so
the
long to
loser, the
yeah.
loser of the war, is the one that like gets
Yeah.
forgot. I mean, the
Yeah.
only thing
No,
he
no, no.
remembers they got their ass kicked, right? That's
Yeah.
about it.
So in all the videos that I watched like for this research today, um, one of them talks about the Reconstruction era and how the North won the war and the South won the Second War, right? The Second
Yeah.
War of storytelling, right?
Yep. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and
But I'll say this because the storytelling. I don't think that's just a Southern thing. I mean, that's just a white thing.
well, I
Right? I mean,
mean,
it's too all that stuff, all those feelings is too much a part of the DNA of the country. So
yeah,
the South lost the war, the North won,
yeah,
but there wasn't anybody really actively trying to ensure that we got our fair chance at building a life here, right? They were constantly burning our stuff down.
yeah,
Tulsa, Oklahoma,
yeah,
every time we go organize, people getting assassinated.
yeah.
Not Huey P. Newton. I forgot the other guy, Black Panther Party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh shit. Huey
So
Freeman? Oh, something Freeman? What's his Black Panther Party leader? There's a movie on HBO now that talks about that as well. And I just haven't watched it because I didn't make time for it, unfortunately. Um
Um, well, if you're talking about the Black Messiah, that was a great movie.
yeah, the Black
Judas and
Messiah.
the Black Messiah. Soundtrack is off the chain.
Huey
But
P. Newton is his name.
okay,
I
I
said
was gonna say Huey P. Newton, but
yeah. I actually said Huey Freeman, which is actually a Boondocks character who is named after this guy, actually.
yeah,
He was actually named after the Black Panther leader. So
yeah.
this is so funny.
Hold on, I don't think it was him. Hold on, I gotta look this up.
Okay. This is
I gotta
professional.
look this up. Thank you, my God, Fred Hampton.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking of. I knew it was not Huey P. Newton.
Nice. So
So
yeah.
yeah, man. You didn't watch Boba Fett, did you?
I haven't watched the latest episode, unfortunately. I'm surprised your ass watched it. When did you watch it?
Today. This afternoon.
I forgot all this time. Shit. Yeah, I heard about it.
It's good stuff.
I heard about it. How much is Boba Fett in this in this last episode?
Oh, he's there. Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Like in the previous two episodes, he was barely there. And I'll be honest with you, those were probably my two favorite episodes of this season.
That's why I wanted to talk about it, because I was like, he's supposed to be the star of the show.
I wish I had time to talk about it. I will talk about it next week in more detail. We can talk a little bit about the deep fake for Luke Skywalker. It looked really, really, really good.
So I did want to talk about that. That is one of the things.
Kind of scary good.
That's what I want to talk about this evening.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a trend.
Yeah.
Right. Especially with Star Wars, just because, the folks who are playing the original characters, obviously they age, they can't do what they used to do.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing now is like this de-aging. I think the first time I really noticed it was in X-Men: The Last Stand, when they de-aged Magneto and Professor X. they showed them going to Jean Grey's house when she was a little girl.
Oh, yes.
And they did a pretty good job.
That wasn't bad.
But
That wasn't the problem with the movie. There were other problems with that movie.
yeah. Well, that movie just sucked. I mean,
yeah.
but Star Wars is taking it to another level, right? But I was reading
Marvel has, Disney has, right? Look at the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
That de-aging tech.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So I was reading an article about that today where the guy was basically saying that he doesn't like what they're doing, right? Because he feels like the characters, they look wooden and stiff, and you're not really getting as much out of the actor, right? You're looking at an animation, and it's kind of taking away from the experience of the episode. Yeah. And when I thought about that, initially, I'm happy to see Luke Skywalker or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they need to have a Luke Skywalker show. I mean, just freaking do it already. Yeah. But, it does kind of take you out of it, right? Like, just have another actor play the role.
Yeah.
Just have him do it, right?
Yeah.
So I like good CGI, but I don't think I need it for this type of stuff. Like, I'd much rather just see, like, I kind of agree with them a little bit. I think they're going a little bit too far. They're doing a little bit too much.
You might be right. I mean, I really enjoyed seeing Luke Skywalker. And I'm not a huge Star Wars guy. I mean, I've said this before. I'm not a huge Star Wars guy at all. But kind of seeing Luke there was pretty good. I mean, I think you make a great point, especially with kind of where we've come from and just how impressionable people are. Right?
Yeah.
We are just super impressionable people. With, like, we can't even get people to wear a mask because they believe, or take a vaccine shot because they believe, like, some bullshit, right? Imagine actually looking at a de-aged, like, Obama or deep-faced Obama cursing like white people or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, and people will, like, take that shit and be like, fuck yeah. So there's that aspect to it as well. God, I wish I watched that. I'm gonna watch the next episode, like, right after we get off this
you didn't do it
podcast. Because I'm excited to see kind of what happens. And I mean, I wanted to talk about, like, my theory of, like, what Grogu picks. My friend, I'll tell you. Yeah, my friend. So he did a great job of, like, predicting, like, some of the stuff. Like, just I was talking to him about this as well. Shout out Jake. So what he says, one of the things is when the Mandarin, when he got his ship, right? There's that little pod back there where the droid was. That's going to be for Grogu, obviously, because the Mandalorian doesn't like droids. One thing I think was interesting was that you saw how the Mandalorian struggled with the Darksaber. So it's possible that Luke Skywalker can help him with that in the future. So that's interesting. So I'm excited to see the next episode, to see kind of what's gonna happen with that. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Luke Skywalker is gonna be in the next episode. You already know all this. But I think the next episode is the season finale, right?
Yes, it was.
And I think the next is them going to fight. Oh, what do you think about Bad Kane? What's the bounty hunter?
Cad Bane. Cad Bane.
Cad Bane. I had it right. I said Bad Kane.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I
was surprised to see him. Because I watched the Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
So it was crazy to see, like, him, like, in the flesh. Like, I thought they did a really good job. They did a really good job with him. They did a really good job with him.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know, and so there's the Bad Batch series. I know Cad Bane and what's the woman, Finna Shank kind of go at it a little bit. I don't know if you've ever seen Bad Batch, that series?
Haven't watched it yet.
Okay. We're probably gonna see characters from Bad Batch in this series. It looks like, I think. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I think I lost my train of thought with that one, but yeah, I'm excited to see the next episode. It should be good. I'm excited to see what they're gonna see with Luke. These guys should be old as fuck. As well, if you think about it.
No, Mandalorian. Cad Bane.
Yeah. Well, so Ahsoka Tano, right? So I'm assuming like Luke is in his 20s in this show, right? Ahsoka Tano should be 45, right? Which is fair. At least 45, right? She should be 45, right? In this series. So, yeah, these characters are pretty old, but yeah, I'm excited to kind of see what's up with that. So,
just freaking cast Sebastian Stan and make a freaking Luke Skywalker show. For the love of God. Everybody's waiting to see it. That is the one thing. I don't know. I don't understand what's so difficult. The public clearly wants to see Luke Skywalker.
So what's interesting is that they're going to come out with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series next.
Who gives a flying F? Right? Not like I'm not going to watch it, right? I'm going to watch it. But we know what happened. He went there to watch over freaking Luke Skywalker. Okay, I get it. Great. Now you wanna, you're gonna do all that. You're gonna bring back Darth Vader. Yes, I'm gonna watch it. Yes, I'll be entertained. Is it what I want to see? No. I want to see Prime Luke Skywalker.
You saw him a little bit though. You saw him training.
I saw him for 2 minutes.
You saw him a little bit with his sword play a little bit. It's like
I'm getting so tired of it. That's the one I'm getting so tired of it. You know good and well. Just cast the man as Luke Skywalker and make it happen. This is what everybody's waiting to see. Give that man. Let's see what happened in the 30 years, man. My God.
Him being Luke Skywalker. We're going to see a deep fake actor playing Luke, and or maybe
they don't have the money for
teasing him. I think they just keep teasing him at the same time too.
I think it's coming, but they're making people wait because Ahsoka Tano. I've been waiting for something with her that was the one thing I took from Clone Wars. Like I thought Ahsoka Tano was by far the best character in Clone Wars.
Can I talk about Rosario Dawson's mannerisms too? Like of Ahsoka Tano, it's fucking spot on.
You can talk about Rosario Dawson anytime.
Yeah. Truth. But her mannerisms were just spot on. The way she was folding her arms and kind of walking with a hand on her hip or something like that. It's just classic. Just nailed it.
Yeah, man.
Nailed it. So
just freaking make it happen, people.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about Luke Skywalker, why they will not give freaking Luke Skywalker what he needs. Don't just kill him off. You already wasted the best character from one of the best characters from Star Wars. Okay, the best character is probably Darth Vader. But you can't just kill that guy off, man. He's done too much. People have grown up with him.
That's true. It's sad that they kind of got rid of him in The Last of the Jedi.
The crappiest movie. Yeah.
The best and crappiest movie at the same time. I remember watching it. And I remember you asking me this question. You kept pressuring me. It's like, what's the best movie? What's the worst movie of the next three? And I was just so lost. I was like, clearly The Last Jedi is the worst movie, but it's also the best in my opinion too. Original. It was so confusing, right?
I said, if you are a Star Wars fan, you hate it. If you are not familiar with Star Wars, you probably thought it was a great movie, and it was. It was a good story, good plot.
It was a good story,
right? If you're not familiar with Luke Skywalker, and you didn't follow his adventures, you come into it kind of fresh.
If you didn't read the canon, the Legends comics, right? Like you did, and all the Wikipedia stuff, which they have
I
all
didn't
this
even-
building up Luke Skywalker, and he's like, nope, he's a disgruntled old man, and now he's dead. Yeah. And it brought us like a really shitty, and in my opinion, third movie.
Well, that's what happens when you have too many cooks in the kitchen,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They should have contracted whoever was going to make the next trilogy.
It all should have been one person, right?
Yeah.
Like Ryan Johnson went in a totally different direction than what.
Just for doing something unexpected, and they're giving him supposedly another trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, the movie wasn't bad, but like I think what people was really angry about is that they messed up Luke Skywalker. That was the angry part. That's what people like get.
Yeah,
right?
But what's funny? Like on social media, like, oh, you just want some patriarchal, blah 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 blah, And I was just like, how about everybody just wanted the main hero of the franchise to get the send off that he deserved?
Yeah,
Maybe?
no, they tried to put some like a kind of social justice spin on it, and that's bullshit.
It's like, get the fuck out of here, man. How about everybody wanted to see the main hero of the franchise get it just due? Can we get that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I can't get past the kiss at the end of like the Rise of Skywalker. It's just like
she should have died. I say it 1,000 times. She should have died. Would Skywalker rose up?
Well, she goes by Skywalker now.
She is not a freaking Skywalker.
But she goes by Skywalker.
She's a Palpatine. That's the
Rise of Skywalker.
that would have been the poetic part of it.
Yeah.
She goes through this journey of finding herself. Who are my parents? She figures out who her lineage is, or what her lineage is. Does the opposite, becomes a hero.
Yeah.
Saves the Skywalker family line. Boom. You're done. Thank you. Ben Skywalker, you're up next. Now you have, well, they're all dead. There was no Rise of
Skywalker. Rey goes by Skywalker now, so
yeah. And hey, look, I go by Bruce Wayne. Does that make me a Wayne? Does that make me a Wayne?
I mean, I guess it can. I don't know if you got $1 billion.
To be more realistic, I go by Nicholas Obama. Does that mean I'm going to get invited to the next vacation we have in Martha's Vineyard? Probably not. Right. Oh, I got a thumbs up.
So I got a thumbs up. That's so funny. It doesn't do that with me. That's so funny. It might be because I'm using a different, like, I don't know, it doesn't matter. That's hilarious.
Anyway. Rant over.
So funny. All right, so I can't wait to talk about the next episode in full. In our next episode, some good games are coming out too. Finally, so Horizon Forbidden West is coming out. So
yes,
I might have to take some time off of work to kind of watch that one. I mean, to play that one.
Yeah, I got Sifu that just came out. You heard of that game?
Sifu?
Yeah.
What is that about?
So it's a revenge story. It's a kung fu game. It's a revenge story. Your character's a kid. He watches his father get murdered, and he wants to go get revenge. Like 8 years later, after he's grown up and mastered kung fu. That joint looks legit. I bought that. Horizon West, Gran Turismo 7.
Yes, I can't wait to get that game.
With the way it's gonna play with the controller, because it's all gonna be like.
Yeah.
Did you play the Astro's Playroom on PlayStation 5, right? The way I can't wait to get something like that on the controller, man. Oh my God.
Wish more games actually took advantage of that too. So Ghost of Tsushima actually did a good job with the haptic controller where there's a part of the game where you have to like play music, and what you have to do to keep up with the music is you have to tilt your controller up and down to kind of match playing in the game, right? which is actually you only see that, by the way, in the the DLC.
Okay,
So the Tsushima DLC. So loved Ghost of Tsushima. I can't wait for freaking Horizon Zero Dawn because part of the problem with that, and I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn just recently. Part of the problems with that game is that there's no real melee fighting.
it
Um,
sucked. It sucked.
yeah, the melee is just very simple, right?
Yeah,
And that's actually something that freaking Ghost of Tsushima did really well at, like the melee fighting, right? And he did archery
heard.
stuff. So,
Yeah,
um, like I'm excited to kind of get into that a little bit as well, to do a lot of the melee
for
fighting. You
sure.
mentioned the Gran Turismo. I didn't get Gran Turismo the last Gran Turismo Sport, but I have almost all the Gran Turismo games, like from 3, 4, 5,
Yeah, yeah.
6.
I thought about buying sport, but once I found out it was like a lighter mode, I was like, nah,
Yeah,
I'll wait
that
for the
was
real
that
one.
was exactly it. Same thing with me. It was a lighter mode. I think they heavily did online stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was actually thinking you made a good point about the controller too, because I really wanted to. I actually thought about actually getting a steering wheel, right?
Hmm.
Playing as well. I may get um the
VR2.
the VR2 that goes with that as well. I'm not sure, but tell me you're single, a single guy without telling me you're single
All right.
guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's actually I'm actually pretty excited to kind of play this game. I actually just picked up a game. I probably won't be playing it anytime soon, because Horizon Zero Dawn is coming out soon. It's called Death Stranded, I think. No, Deathloop. Deathloop.
I heard good things about that.
Yeah.
I've heard good things
Um,
about that.
yeah, Deathloop. And I'm not a first person shooter guy, like at all.
You're not. I'm surprised
I
you bought
don't.
that.
Yeah, I'm not a first person shooter guy. This will probably be like the only. This might be the only first person shooter game I've ever. Maybe there's got to be another one. This is the only first person shooter game I've owned, right, for sure. Unless
Yeah.
you want to count, this is probably doesn't count at all. Metal Gear Solid 4, which has a first person shooter mode in it.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't count that. I
yeah,
wouldn't count
it's yeah, I like my third person shooter
that.
situations, but or my third person situations. But uh yeah, no, I'm excited to get inside Deathloop. I've been playing Horizons too much though, so I need to kind of get off of that.
Yeah.
Um I've also been
I had to get a kids game. I started playing it's called Immortals, Phoenix Rising. Yeah,
okay.
it was like it came out early on for PS5, like when it was first released or whatever. It's a little cartoony, kind of set like with the ancient Greece and the gods and everything,
Mhm.
but it's something that the kids can watch, right? So play that a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Well, look, man, let's go ahead. We've been going on for an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
Thank you guys. I noticed that you shared our podcast to like all over places. So if anyone watches, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate the time, the effort. It took
yeah.
me a while to kind of get all of
As
the
always.
in. No, screw you. I was talking about the research. um,
No, he did a great job on that.
thank you
Props to him
so
for that.
much.
For sure.
Thank you. We got to do better because we don't have any strict. We're still streaming live on Twitch right now, but we don't have like any Twitch like streamers.
Yeah.
So we gotta do that. So we probably need to. Maybe we'll both be playing Horizon Zero Dawn on Twitch. Get some streamers.
Hey, I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
I'll
So
be on it.
yeah, and I need to figure out how to go live on Instagram, and I might take the live off my personal Facebook account and like put in for like something else too. So we'll see.
All right.
So, alrighty. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching. You guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out. And let me awkwardly stop the cast in that stream now.
So sad.